We gotta talk about all the zombie support that you're gonna want to have for the new Bones coming out in Maze of Muertos. And make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that Dragon Necro, the Nether Soul Dragon button, so you guys don't miss out more on this content. Now, Mr. Dragon Necro here is a pretty straightforward card, because he's 2 zombie monsters to make it on basically a super poly target. And we've seen throughout years and years of time that when we produce super poly targets, yeah, it's usually going to be pretty broken. Now, this thing has to be fusion summon. Monsters cannot be destroyed by battle with this card. Oh, look, it's basically an illusion monster. And at the end of the damage step of this card, battle the monster, change that monster's attack to 0. Also, if that monster still face on the field, special summon a Dark Soul token, zombie !, with the same level and attack as that original level and attack of that monster. Now, you can only control 1 Dragon Necro, the Nether Soul Dragon. I mean, if you'd be able to summon multiples of these, that's 2 tokens a turn. That gets a little bit ridiculous in the deck building space. So, I don't know, happy to have a super poly target checking in, ready to go. Of course, there's Call of the Haunted. This one doesn't take much of a genius to think about here, because Konami straight said, hey, we're going to print a card that is original of the archetype, gives you the ability to do all of the tutoring shenanigans that you're kind of used to seeing, and I mean, we're going to give it all the extra effects through the field spell. I mean, I like that Konami does things like that they power these things up, but you've caused the Lost Art to go up. Of course, the QCR was going to follow its way up to the top as well. People love when their classic cards suddenly become way cooler and way more effective without totally retraining them and killing them off. And I think Call of the Haunted is a primary example of cards had enough time to age. We can actually build an archetype around it and allow it a nice fun chance to function. So enjoy your higher rarity stuff for that. Zombie world. So, because Mr. Dragon Necro, Nether Soul Dragon, requires any 2 zombie monsters, people classically look to something like Super Poly as a way to, what if we just convert everything on the field to zombie? Then we can just use Super Poly to sweep up everything that the opponent's got on their field, and congratulations, you're able to answer whatever field that the opponent has, and it's a lot of feels good problem solving, text. Now, my problem still remains, you can only control 1 of the Dragon Necro and Nether Souls. I mean, there is the Dookie of Demise that we could use. I didn't actually put him on the list because I think Dragon Necro just kind of feels like a better card. But you do have alternatives presented if you want to play the zombie world itself as part of the deck. Now, we do have ye old copy of the zombie, the Vampire Sucker, which honestly, Vampire Sucker does tend to look like a pretty cool card, because you get the allure of it's the best generic zombie link monster. You would get to tribute a monster for a tribute summon. You can tribute a zombie monster your opponent controls, because this thing actually has the ability to target a zombie on your opponent's graveyard. Monster in their graveyard, revive it, becomes a zombie. Correction. And then if a zombie monster or monster special summon from either graveyard, you could draw a card. Now, you only get 1 of these effects. They don't want you drawing and reviving on the same card. God, that'd be busted. But I will say that this card is pretty solid for what it does. It makes the rest of the vampire stuff into slightly more playable pieces. And that's basically what we wanted. We wanted more playability for this. Now, there's also Jackal Blonde. No matter where I turn or what happens with zombie cards, Jack is always asked about. He's always the card that people are like, oh my god, this card's pretty good. So you have to discard a zombie to special summon it from your hand. If it's in your graveyard, it sucks to suck. You can't revive it. But during your opponent's main phase, quick effect, and target a zombie in either graveyard, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field, and then banish this face-up card until the end phase. If I could actually revive on my turn with this, I think this card would be one of the best cards that you could work with within the zombie hellscape. But unfortunately, that is just not the case. You are not getting too much advantage off of this. He's also deceptive because he's a level 7, which kind of goes against what we want for this. The Dampier Vampire Sheridan. So this is the other level 6 we can go into, because remember, the new Pumpkin is supposed to be a rank 6. Now this is, if you use a monsters with a level that is owned by your opponent for the Exceed Summon of this card, you can treat it as a level 6. So you can use whatever your opponent's got to turbo into this. Well, you detach a material from this card to target one card your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. And then once per turn, if a monster card or monster cards is sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard by a card effect, or a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to your opponent's graveyard, detach a material from this card, special summon one of those to your side of the field in defense mode. They didn't want you to be able to turbo a body onto your field. God, could you imagine bringing back whatever you kill and being able to attack directly with it? That would be too good, in my opinion. But for extra rank 6 turbo options, I think that this is kind of the category that you're looking for most of, the abuse. And then, of course, we always have to talk about Vampire Fraulein. Fraulein is also a little bit deceptive because she is a level 5. But when a monster declares an attack, we can special summon this card from your hand in defense mode, which has always been kind of cool. And then, once per battle, if your zombie monster battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation, pay life points in multiples of 100, max 3,000. And your battling monster gains that much attack or defense during damage calculation only. And at the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed any monsters by battle, you can special summon them from the graveyard to your field. I mean, she'll be able to handle anything. If you got 3,000 life points, she'll be able to handle anything. It's over, 3K on up to 3,500, which is actually not too terrible. But this is just kind of one of the fun little carries that you kind of get to look at when you're exploring, the zombie toolbox of options. It's not the greatest, but it is something. And then we have Mizuki and Goizuki. Both of these cards have always kind of been the pieces that try to hold the zombie archetypes together. Every time you look at Combo Zombie Pile, you're always going to notice, oh, hey, there's a mention of how many Mizukis do you need to play, because Mizuki ends up being this massive little combo piece to keep the bodies returning back to the field. Now, this does kind of open up the door of maybe you want to play a zombie pile deck, going into the 60 cards, for example, and trying out some of the different ideas that you could have. And I mean, that works out. It all just depends on, is this concept or idea going to be worth the investment of wanting to play Goizukis and Mizukis? And realistically, it might not be the worst case to think about. It just depends on how much zombie good stuff you're trying to throw in your deck. And then, of course, we have Eldritch. I mean, Eldritch always, once again, you come back to the pile idea here. You're like, oh, hey, pushes up anime glasses and style. It's like, hey, we can mix and match. We can try out, these ideas of success with our zombie pile because the Eldritch cards are basically recurable. Yes, once again, we come down to that same idea of extra bodies coming back. The extra free control tends to work out very, very nicely. But at the same time, it does feel like maybe it's not going to necessarily work with the Pumpkin stuff. I don't know, man. It all comes down to how big and how generic we can tend to make these cards in their space. And as long as they don't conflict with Eldritch of any kind, then I think maybe the zombie pile just gets a little bit better. And then, of course, we have the Flying Mary, the Wandering Ghost Ship. Now, this one is another Link monster. Unlike the Vampire Sucker, you have to target a level 5 or higher zombie monster is banished or in your graveyard. And in this case, this thing kicks itself into the spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. And you get to special summon that monster. Now, while this card is a continuous spell, you can target a level 5 or higher zombie monster you control, destroy one monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. And then, hey man, it's free. Now, you can only use the Wandering Ghost Ship Mary once per turn, but I mean, it's the Flying Dutchman. It's free body generation, but I mean, all the cards seem kind of cool. But what do you guys think? Please, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.